Hello and welcome to the Go the Distance podcast series. My name is Sadie and today we will be talking about Serenity. You can find my social media links at milehighradio.com/go-the-distance. If you're interested in joining the conversation during the recording of these episodes, please join my group on Facebook to receive notifications about when I go live. I usually go live on Saturdays, however, I'm just getting through report card season, so I haven't been doing so, but generally I will be doing episodes on Saturdays on Facebook, so feel free to join in there at Go the Distance podcast series group, and you can find the link to that at Mile High Radio, the link that I provided earlier. Thank you to Lynn Burnett and Mile High Radio for making all of this possible, and today I will be talking about Serenity. So the dictionary.com definition of serenity is the state or quality of being serene, calm, or tranquil, sereneness. For me, serenity means peace. As I shared on a previous episode, I participated in a missions trip to Jamaica, and our group would meet every night to debrief the events of the day, talk about ways to problem solve any problems that we encountered, and we would do an activity for team building each night as well. So one of the nights, an activity that we were presented with was to choose 3 words that we would want to live our lives by. And so after a whole night of kind of thinking about it, and we all kind of like went off into our own space and took the time to really think about it. And the 3 words that I chose were serenity, passion, and faith. So the previous episode is about passion, and my next episode will be about faith. So today's about serenity. And if you haven't done so already, please listen to last week's episode. You can find that at milehighradio.com/go-the-distance. And you can also find the rest of my previous episodes there as well. So thanks again for tuning in, and feel free to leave comments on Facebook about what you think about my podcasts and how things are going. If you have any topics that you'd like me to talk about. So Serenity was something that I found when I went out into the garden at an orphanage that I was working at in Jamaica. And I'd been working all day inside where the children are living with a variety of special needs, and many of them were unable to communicate with words. Many of them would scream or grunt or make sounds. And it was a really small place, so the noise level was really high, and the staff were always hustling and bustling around and trying to get things done. So it was very busy and a lot going on. So one of the regular staff suggested that me and another person on the mission trip with me take a couple of the children out to the garden. And I'd been working at this orphanage for quite a while, but I'd never gone out to the garden before. And as soon as I got there, I was just like overcome with a sense of peace. Like I just like felt my whole body just kind of like relax and like take in the beautiful garden that they had there. And I couldn't hear any of the pain or discomfort of the children from inside the orphanage because the walls kind of muted that sound, and all I could hear were the birds singing. And the child that I brought out to the garden was unable to speak, so we sat there quietly and just kind of like enjoyed the moment, and it was just really calm and peaceful, and I don't really know how else to describe it. So after about 5 minutes, the child I brought out with me started to sing, and I was just like in utter shock. I was like, how is she able to sing when I couldn't even get her to say hi to me? And I'd been trying all week because she would give me this little like smirky smile when she'd see me. So I'd go up to her and try to get her to talk to me, but she won't talk. And even the other staff said, like, she just doesn't talk. So anyways, we get out to the garden, and after about 5 minutes, she just starts singing like at the top of her lungs, and she was singing so beautifully and so clearly, and she just had this like look of pure joy on her face. And so that moment always reminds me of how important it is to take time to find calmness and peace, as life can really truly surprise you with what you start to notice in those moments. Like for her, she probably just is so stuck inside there listening and hearing all of the pain and discomfort of the people around her, and she probably experiences those things as well for herself. And just to be able to go out into the garden and just hear the birds and feel that sense of calmness and be surrounded by beautiful flowers and bushes and trees, and I think there was even like a little water fountain there as well. So it was that moment. I always think of that, and it just makes me smile because, you know, if I hadn't taken the suggestion from that staff member, if I hadn't taken a moment to go out into the garden with her and just be there and be with her, I wouldn't have ever known she could sing, and I wouldn't have ever heard her. And she, you know, that look of joy on her face, I'll never forget that smile that she had on her face. It was the purest smile I've ever seen. So as I talked about in previous episodes, I was really angry as a teenager. I used to love the word hate, and I would say, oh, I hate this or I hate that and blah, blah, blah. I was always complaining about things and saying that I was unsatisfied or I didn't like the way that this was or that was. And I just had a really negative outlook on life, and everything that I interpreted it in a negative way. And when I finally, you know, took some time to do, I guess, some self-discovery, you could even call it, but I just really realized that perspective that I had of hatefulness and dissatisfaction, for me, it really, like, when I look back, I was being so ignorant, because here I am living in a first world country and so fortunate with all of the things that I'm blessed with, and somehow I was still filled with such negativity. And to go to a place where people struggle just to have their needs met, just to have food and water and safety, and I just really realized that this is true. Like, this is a true reason to be upset or to hate something. Like, someone who doesn't have enough food to fill their tummy has the right to hate life or to, you know, to feel upset. But for me, like, I have everything I need, and at the time I had everything I needed, and I had these strong negative emotions. So I just really realized that when I was in Jamaica, back in Canada, my life is so fortunate and so full of things to be appreciative of. And it's really hard to just realize that, because it just really, it kind of scrambled my brain. Like, I was just like, oh my goodness, like, my whole life, the whole time I've been thinking about it in this one way, but really I need to be looking at it in this way, because there's people out there who, like I said, they're struggling just to fill their tummies, just to have a good meal and to feel safe. And so it was in that moment that I really started to feel myself change. Like I said, Everything I'd thought about was from a different perspective, and now I had a new perspective, so I had to kind of re-experience how I perceive the world in order to take on that new perspective. So all of these like menial things that I was angry about meant nothing, because these people are just fighting to live. And I previously felt entitled to complain about and hate the fortune that I was blessed with. And I knew from what I'd seen and what I'd experienced that I had strong emotions about such small problems. And I've honestly felt a sense of peace and calmness ever since then. I have a new sense or idea about what it feels, or what it is to feel sad or angry. When I thought about all the time I'd wasted being upset over silly little things, I realized my time is so much more valuable than that. It takes a great amount of effort to be angry, and it takes a great amount of effort to hold on to like little resentments or little things. You have to remember, oh, I'm mad at that person because they said this or they did that. And we spend so much time reliving and being angry and talking about how, oh, they did this, so I'll never forgive them. And we invest so much of our time into those negative cycles, and there's people out there who don't have a meal to fill their stomachs. And I had to make a choice, and I did. I made a choice to be conscious about how I spend my time and how I perceive things, because once you learn something, you can't unlearn it. And once I learned that there's people out there in the world, and the world is so much bigger than you ever realize, it really does change your perspective on life. And so every second you have is so valuable and is a gift, and not everyone gets to experience that luxury and that freedom that we have here in first world countries. And so I made a conscious effort to cherish my time and to use it wisely, and not to let the cycle of negativity bring me down, because all of that time I spent being angry and being upset and being frustrated, it's really just wasted time. I mean, there's people out, I was a teenager at the time, so there's adults out there working to give all of the people in Canada such a nice life. And we've got people working in factories and farms and stores and all of these things to provide a life for our people. And here we are upset about how this item isn't the best thing, or whatever other little menial things. Like, it's just so easy to get caught up in the context of the life that we have, and it's so easy to forget about the fact that there's people out there who don't have a change of clothes. Like, they have a shirt, a pair of pants. That's what they have. And we get upset when we get a little stain on our clothes, but there's people who would give anything just to have 2 shirts instead of just one, so that they don't have to be naked while they wash their clothes. Or there's people out there who, they're working every day just to they don't even have a cupboard to keep food in because the amount of work that they do equals the amount of food that they'll consume that day. They don't have stores or savings of food. And here we are living with shelves of food and shelves of toys and clothing and department stores filled with all of these goods. And yet there's people in the world who have nothing. Why are all of these things sitting on shelves when we've worked so hard to make them? And how much of it is being thrown away? Like I'd like to know that. Like how much do we over make for ourselves? Like do we put to use everything that we make? And if we don't, why aren't we sharing it with people who don't have it? So I guess I've gone a little bit off the topic of serenity, but anyways, that's my little spiel on that. But again, just like truly valuing the people in your lives, is that relationship worth having an argument and a screaming match with that person over? There's always a better way than yelling to deal with a problem anyways, but for myself, I kind of realized like the relationships that I have and that I've built and worked hard to have are valuable. That's time that I've invested in people who I care about. And if I'm going to allow something small and menial to take that relationship and destroy it or, set it back, then I guess that just speaks to how much value I've placed on that. And it's really hard when we have strong emotions to overcome them and think past them, because like I talked about in previous episodes, a part of your brain when you have a strong emotional reaction kind of takes over. And if you allow it to take over and you're not able to access your higher order thinking, then that's when it's easy to get caught up in those moments. And I just urge all of you who are listening to take a moment to think about the way that you react to situations and try to put yourself into perspective, not just of your immediate world or community. Try to put yourself into perspective of everyone. Try to think about the whole big picture, the whole globe. And don't just get stuck on that kind of self-centered way of interpreting your life like I did, because I wasted so much time thinking that I was the most important, and I am important, we are all important, but when you're focusing on yourself, it's easy to miss out on great opportunities that you won't notice, because all you're noticing is about yourself and not about others. And when you take the time to be present in the moment and just cherish what little time you have in whatever activity you're doing, like it just, I don't know, for me, like those 5 minutes of sitting quietly out in the garden were enough for that child to be able to break out into song and to take that moment to praise God. She was singing songs about God and to rejoice, and she just, like 5 minutes, and the smile that I saw on her face was so bright and so big, and it was just amazing, because I could see that she was truly happy, and that sense of happiness I hadn't even felt that happy in a long time at the time. And it's so easy to get caught up in the hustle and bustle and forget to even smile. I read a fact recently, and actually it was a few years ago, but an infant, I'm not quite sure on the numbers, so don't quote me on this, but an infant smiles like 500 times a day, and then a toddler or a child smiles 50 times a day, and then an adult smiles like only 5 times a day. So what happens from the years of infancy to the years of adulthood that we go from smiling so many times a day to almost not even smiling in a day? Like, I wish I had that statistic or that information. Okay, so this first thing that came up here on my Google search says that that children laugh more than 300 times a day, whereas adults laugh less than 20 times a day. So for me, that I was like, okay, so why are kids so happy and adults less happy? And it's because as adults, we work to make our children happy. We want our kids to be smiling and enjoying their life, but we spend so much time worrying about that then we forget to smile. And I guess that kind of opposes what I just said about not thinking about yourself. But I mean, when it comes to smiling, you got to be happy. So basically what I want to leave you with is that it doesn't matter, like, it doesn't matter what you're working towards or what your purpose is, but what really matters is that you're finding a sense of joy and a sense of happiness and a sense of calmness, because in those moments of happiness and joy, we're able to discover things about ourselves, about the world, about others that you wouldn't notice if you were caught up in being busy and angry and upset. So it's really important to just take time for those calm moments and peacefulness. And especially now, it's like Christmas time and everyone's rushing around trying to make sure that they've got gifts for everyone and cards for everyone and everything they need for a Christmas dinner and decorations and all of these things that we tend to focus on. But the true meaning of Christmas is to appreciate each other and to live our lives in a way that provides, what was I trying to say? That noise really distracted me. The whole purpose of Christmas is to cherish each other and to spend time together and to value each other and to treat each other with respect and kindness. And Christmas represents the birth of Jesus, and that is what he embodied his whole life, was valuing people for people. He didn't judge people because they were sick or ill. He helped them even though they were unclean or unhealthy, or, you know, he would work with lepers who nobody would even go near because leprosy is considered to be so contagious that, you know, you're not supposed to go around people who have it. And he would heal them, and he didn't judge people. He didn't turn people away because they didn't possess the qualities that we hold to such high standards. He accepts people for being people and for being human. And he understands that when we make mistakes and when we do things in the wrong way, he understands how to forgive and how to give people a second chance. And I think that in this time of, hustle and bustle and Christmas season, we need to all take that time to just step back and enjoy the moment and remember it's not about all these material goods. It's about people and relationships, and that's what Christmas is really about. So thank you for listening in. Remember to go the distance because life doesn't stand still.